Where was the Mishkan? In Shiloh, of course, but where in Shiloh? This video is a short virtual tour through the site of Shiloh itself in search of where on the Tel the Mishkan could have been. There have been a number of suggestions throughout the ages, but the main two have been either the top of the Tel, which would certainly seem to be a fitting place for an important spiritual site, and the second is all the way at the far end of the Tel, on a little natural balcony hanging off on the northern side of the site. Not the highest, not the first place you would come to when entering Shiloh, but lower down and off to the side a bit. We'll focus mainly dafka on the second suggestion. The archaeological evidence in this case is not very helpful, but perhaps the geography of Shiloh within its surrounding context can share some clues. We're standing on the northern plateau, where the dimensions seem to match those described in the Torah, and may hint to it having been the location where the Mishkan stood. But what happens when we search for the location of the Mishkan based on the Psukim? We'll see in the next perek that when a runner came from the battlefield to spread the news of what had happened, he first runs through the city and only then reaches Eli, who it seems was sitting by the entrance of the Mishkan. The pasuk says he fell by the gate, but if it was the gate of the city, why didn't the runner reach him first? It also says he was by a place looking out over the road in anticipation of hearing news from the front. While there is a good view of the road from this part of the Tel, you still may think that there may be a better view from the top. But I'm not sure that Eli needed the place further from the road with the better view of the distance, as at this point he could hardly see anyway. And when the messenger does come, it doesn't seem he saw him coming, but rather heard all the commotion as the news began to spread throughout the city. As such, it does seem that he was deep inside Shiloh, perhaps by the gates of the Mishkan, waiting to hear what he already knew was coming. The best part, in my opinion, was the piece of the puzzle added by Zev Erlich, may Hashem avenge his blood, Hashem yikom damo. Zev Erlich, nicknamed Jabbo, was a scholar and researcher who lived the land of Israel with every fiber of his being. At a time when the nation was still torn apart over who must serve or not, at the age of 71, he showed up for his reserves in Lebanon way, way beyond what anyone would demand, expect, or even imagine. It was simple. It wasn't an obligation. It was an honor. It was an honor to stand alongside his brothers, defending our people and our land and raising morale. He was attacked by Hezbollah terrorists and killed on November 20th, 2024, while he went out with a couple of other soldiers to explore antiquity ruins in the area of Lebanon, which were under their guard. He explored and defended the land until his very last breath. Zev pointed out that Chazal raised a fascinating question in Masechet Zvachim. The Mishnah had noted that some korbanot could be eaten outside of Shiloh itself, as long as it was visible from there. And the Gemara asks, as long as what is visible from there? Shiloh in general, or the Mishkan itself? And goes on to ask, what if one can see Shiloh, but not the Mishkan itself? Is that enough? Meaning, the Mishkan was in a place where from the surrounding hills it may be blocked, while the town of Shiloh could still be seen. This could perhaps be evidence towards it being here on the slope, as we've been suggesting, rather than on top of the hill, where it would probably be more visible from all around to anyone who could see the town itself built on the slopes around it. In addition, Ehrlich wrote of parts of a low wall found on some of the surrounding hilltops with an incredible amount of pottery from that time period, specifically on the side of the wall facing ancient Shiloh, and primarily later styles of pottery on the outside of these walls, meaning perhaps this is evidence of those who did come on Aliyah Regel, having set themselves up on the hills surrounding Shiloh, where there was room for everyone, if they would show up. And there, everyone would be able to set up a spot and sit with their families and partake in the Korban. While it's tempting to place it on the top of the hill, where it would seem the most honorable place for it to have been, it's not clear that that's our style. The Beis Hamikdash itself, too, was on the lowest of the surrounding mountains, and perhaps not even at the highest point in Har Moriah itself, as the mountain continued to climb somewhat towards the north. Like the description of Binyamin's territory, the Nachalav de Shechina, Ben Ktefav Shachen, not the top of the mountain, but the topographical shoulders on its slopes. When going up to a high point, you naturally feel a certain sense of romamut, like you're being lifted spiritually. It's easy to come to a sincere desire to dive in there and connect with Hashem. If you haven't felt it in a while, go out to nature. Visit the amazing vistas of our land in person, not just digitally together here. It's no wonder that Avodah Zarah is worshipped on hilltops and under leafy trees, and davening and connecting with Hashem in such places is really such an uplifting experience. But at the same time, we have to be careful. We can't separate between serving Hashem up close to the heavens and living the service of Hashem intertwined in all aspects of our daily lives here on earth. Lo b'shamayim hi. Eli seems to severely miss this point. His bitachon would seem impressive at first, in that he completely accepts the nevuah as it comes from on high, but he totally missed the point of why it was sent. The point of nevuah isn't to let him know that there's an unavoidable disaster on its way, but to push him and us into action to avoid it. When a security feature on a car beeps, it isn't signaling to you to prepare for impact. It's telling you to avert the crash, Khalila. The sound of the shofar is meant to shake us awake, and the point of the nevuah is an opportunity for renewal. Accept what's happened as the best, as it's come from Hashem, but don't accept the future as unalterable. Take action.